It is quite simple to train pushing movements without any equipment. The force of gravity is pulling your body towards the ground, so the floor and maybe 2 chairs is all you need to train all the pushing exercises such as push-ups, dips or squats. However, the muscles that are used to do the pulling movements are not as easily trained at home because you need to be able to hang. If you don't have a pull-up bar, usually there are no good other methods of suspending your body in the air. That's why getting a pull-up bar is #1 priority if you're serious about training at home. In this video I talk about many different kinds of pull-up bars that you can buy, so check it out if you'd like to get my recommendation. But what if getting a bar is not an option? You might be renting a place where installing one is just not possible, or maybe you don't want to invest any money into training gear because you're moving out soon. Or maybe you're simply
I'm broke as shit.
There are ways of training your back without spending any money on training gear, and even though they won't be as effective or effortless, it's better than doing nothing. Here are some of my ideas on how to train your back muscles using only items that you already have at your house. Upper back training is mostly done with these 2 movement patterns. You're either pulling vertically from top to bottom or horizontally front to back. These moves should hit most of the muscles of your back. The easier one to do is horizontal pulling because you only need something this tall that will support your weight to use the whole range of motion. 2 regular chairs like these ones are good enough. The only problem you might have is the stability when you hold onto the backrest like this. One option to solve that issue could be to load the chairs with something like 6 pack of bottled waters. Another idea is to put a broomstick on top of the backrests. It would break in 2 if you put any weight in the middle, but if you grab it as close to the backrest as possible, it should hold your weight without a problem. You might use a kitchen table in similar fashion without having to worry about stability issues. If you're a bit more advanced, you can use your whole body weight to make these pull-ups more challenging. You could also set up a homemade version of suspension trainer using a scarf or some other piece of fabric. You need to tie a knot at the end of it and put it over the top of the door like this. Just make sure you're leaning on the other side of the door opening, otherwise you may break it. Use one arm at a time or both if it's too difficult. You might tie a broomstick at the end for a better grip. And lastly, you can train your back using homemade weights, like the water bottles I mentioned earlier. Single arm standing rows are the first exercise that comes to mind, although you can lift quite a lot of weight this way, and the water bottles might not be enough. Smaller weights can also be used if you lift them with straight arms. When you extend your elbows, you increase the distance between the back muscles and the weight, so you can create similar stress with smaller weights. Vertical pulling is much more challenging to do without the bar, because you need to hold onto something at least this high to train in full range of motion. With 2 chairs like mine, all I can do is a static hold like this one. While it wouldn't be the worst way to exercise your back, it's much better to work in the full range of motion. If you don't have a piece of furniture that's proper height, you might try stacking 2 things on top of each other. Using one arm at a time and helping out with one leg is your best option here. Try to lift most of your weight with the arm and use the leg as little as possible. You can try using the same scarf in the door technique here as well, although I would be careful with the amount of weight you put on the door. You could break the door hinges if you pull it too hard. Be sure to put the scarf as close to the hinges as you can to minimize the strain on them. A safer option would be to fix the scarf lower and lie down on the floor. This exercise uses friction to create resistance, so the type of the floor, material of your shirt, and your position determine how difficult it is. Try changing the last 2 to find proper difficulty for yourself. If you have a decent flexibility in the pike position, you could stand on the chairs and pull up some weight like water bottles. This amount of weight would not be enough for most of you, so the same straight arm technique could be applied here as well. This way you can increase difficulty without having to increase the weight too much. This is how you can train your back at home with no pull-up bar. It's not as easy as installing one, but as you can see, you can do it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you sometime in the future.